Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Hey guys, we're your hosts, M and J, and today we wanted to give some quick thoughts on the new show Magical Girl Friendship Squad. And honestly, my first thought is that this name is not great. It's so generic I keep forgetting what it's called. But Magical Girl Friendship Squad is a new cartoon from Syfy. It's basically a parody of the magical girl genre, like Sailor Moon or Precure, but it's very trope heavy, to the point where it feels like they're having trouble with their own identity. Aside from the adult humor, this is all things we've already seen before. The show relies on gross-out humor, referential humor, and stereotypes, so kind of par for the course for adult animation, but also not my cup of tea. On top of that, the characters are pretty unlikable. They're pretty mean and judgy, not to mention selfish and irresponsible, and I'm not sure if the show is going to allow them to develop as characters, or if it's just going to rely on their antics for comedy. The art style isn't the most fluid or consistent, and the characters only have base colors on them, with very little to no shading, so it's not the most aesthetically pleasing either. The show takes place in New York City, and we're introduced to our two main characters, Alex and Daisy, when they're making fun of a tourist who just got robbed. There is this stereotype that New Yorkers don't like tourists, and that they're not very nice, which this show looks like it's embracing, which is unfortunate. Our dad is actually from New York City, so these stereotypes aren't very appreciated. The two main characters are basically every stereotype you can think about millennials. They're roommates who are struggling to pay rent because they can't hold down a job. They keep getting fired for things that could have been avoided, like posting inappropriate things on social media and making the company look bad. So they're out job hunting, and along the way they catch the attention of a red panda, who turns out to be the cute animal mascot that you see in a lot of magical girl shows. She goes by Nut, and she mistakes Alex and Daisy for being great warriors because she overheard them making John Wick references. But even if they were great warriors, that doesn't mean that they would make good heroes. They could be evil. On top of that, she literally just got there, and these are the first two people she's come across. If she's gonna be giving people magical powers, she should probably have some kind of interview process. But she ends up at their apartment, and they're understandably concerned about a talking red panda. This next part is kind of hard to describe. Instead of just explaining herself, which she could have easily done, she decides they need to actually see what she's talking about, and apparently she has to get them to stick their fingers in her butt so they can see the flashback. Which is weird because in the next episode there's also a flashback, but she doesn't make them shove their fingers in her butt. So I guess it's only here for gross out humor, but that's assault and harassment. Plus they keep interrupting the flashback by trying to use the internet on their phones, which has nothing to do with anything that's going on. It's just extremely gross and strange. I feel like the backstory is serviceable. It's not very deep, but it works. But I feel like this is actually having the opposite effect, because instead of hearing her out, everyone's just too distracted by her forcing them to stick their fingers in her butt. Basically, she created the universe, but now there's evil forces who want to destroy the planet. And she needs somebody to stop them, and she can't do it herself because she has limited powers in this form. Pretty generic stuff for a magical girl show, but I guess it's not trying to be deep, so it's fine. Neither of them are on board with this until Nut mentions that she'll give them magical powers, but then they're upset to find out they have responsibilities. But what were they expecting, to just be granted magical powers for no reason? They also don't ask any questions, even though this could easily turn into a Madoka Magica thing. They also say there's no point in fighting to protect the world because global warming will destroy it anyway, but Nut still gives them magic. They have to choose items in order to get the magic, so Daisy chooses a novelty bong she has, and Alex chooses her birth control, which sums up their characters pretty well. So now we have these two random people who are clearly not qualified to save the world, having to go out and fight interdimensional bad guys. Although the only villain we see is this guy with white hair, and I'm pretty sure this is a human disguise. We don't get to learn anything about him though. He just stalks around and then turns this random barista into a monster. I thought she would just turn back to her normal self when she was defeated, but instead she dies. So they take her home and cut up her body and put it down the garbage disposal. Our heroes, everybody. I mean, it might not have been their fault that she died, but they didn't have to desecrate her corpse like that. But in the end, they get out of paying rent for this month because their garbage disposal gets backed up. How nice for them. So that was an interesting introduction to the series. There was one joke I kind of liked. When they first transform, their outfits are very tacky and basically a ripoff of Kill la Kill. Apparently Nut designed them herself, so she has pretty bad taste. So they throw on an extra layer before they start the fight. So that joke was alright, although although nothing really made me laugh. We don't get much out of the second episode. We don't learn anything more about the overarching plot, but we do learn that Daisy and Alex can use their powers outside of being transformed. They use it for personal gain to make money, which isn't surprising. To be fair, most people would use their powers to make money if they got magic, but I don't think the series is focused on having these characters grow very much. We find out that Nut has made other worlds. She's embarrassed about one of them called Nut's World because she was going through a phase when she made it. It's basically what the internet was in the early 2000s. They make references to AIM and those old forums where you could make your own avatars. I'm sure there were a lot of different sites like that. I feel like if you weren't there or you just didn't participate in any of this, you probably won't get too much out of these references. In a way, it feels like this show is dated. It's like if a show in 10 or 15 years would make references to TikTok and going, hey, remember this from when you were an awkward teen? They make a big deal about that S that everyone was doing back in the day. It's even the title of the episode, the cool S. Nut got out of that phase and so she's embarrassed by this world and moved on to different worlds, but she doesn't want to destroy it either because it's her creation. The people of Nut's World feel abandoned by her, which technically she did, so they try to drag her back. But Nut doesn't want Daisy and Alex to hurt them because they are her creations and she made them this way. So Daisy and Alex just tell them to write fan fiction so they can deal with their emotions. And that's it. They do get new costumes in the second episode, which are a step up from their first episode costumes. I get the feeling this show isn't too worried about things like character development or plot progression or even continuity. Like, they're more interested in just joking around. Like the butt thing. It didn't seem to be necessary in the second episode, but it was so very necessary in the first. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy they didn't commit to that, but what was the point of it in the first place, aside from gross out humor? In the end, the only people I would probably recommend this to are people who like anime and adult humor. It might be fun to pick out all the anime references, but we're probably not going to continue the series. The characters, the art style, and the story just didn't really vibe with us, but that's just our opinion. Have you guys seen the show? Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. Before we go, we'd like to shout out our members: Caleb Nelson, Stutania, Tyrant Carnivore, Adam K, Shiny Orc Boy, Taylor Ramirez, The Rabbit Mancer, Dash Hound, Haley Kosheva, Ray Thulu, and Hunter Rose. Thanks for watching, we really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more content from us. And if you want to get a shout out in our videos, you can become a member by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye everyone. Bye guys.